Hey everybody, I'm going to walk you through the key assessment, your phase one submission requirements. This assignment is due on Sunday at midnight. You'll be submitting to both TaskStream and to Blackboard. So make sure you remember to submit to both places. In order to find the documents, you're going to go into our Blackboard shell and go to the major projects or major assignments tab that's over here under instruction under the learning modules, and then scroll down to the key assessment information. You'll want to open up both the rubric, the support document, and then the assessment template. I'm going to open up the assignment description and rubric first, just as a quick reminder for you. You are welcome to follow the directions that are in the beginning part of the key assessment, but really the step-by-step details that you'll need to follow to ensure you're meeting all of the assignment requirements are in the template. So keep in mind that in order to earn a passing score in this assignment, you have to have an overall holistic score of developing. That means that in every single rubric row, you must at least score a 1. And in some rows, you can score a 2, a 3, or a 4. But overall, you have to be scoring in the developing range. So an emerging row or 2 is fine. Most of your rows should score either developing or higher. If you don't score on any of the rows, that means you'll need to redo that part of the assignment in order to meet the rubric requirements. The assignment template is scaffolded so that you will be meeting the requirements as long as you fulfill each rubric row requirement or assignment row requirement. We'll walk through that in just a second, but also you should be using this to help guide your work and to make sure you are on track. I'll be scoring and giving you very specific feedback on your rubric rows when you turn your work in at the end of the week. So I created a support resources document because within the key assessment, it does ask you to do some comparative analysis. I'm looking at Piaget, Erickson, and Kohlberg. And so for those of you that haven't looked at that in quite a while, or haven't looked at it at all in your preparation so far, I've got Piaget's stages of cognitive development. So you simply read the characteristics on the right to decide what age the student is currently performing at and what stage that is. So for example, if the student was currently using language and symbols, including letters and numbers, to communicate, if you see that they have that egocentrism in their character, in their way that they interact with you, and if they are looking like they have these sensory motor characteristics already conquered, then you would say, yep, they're in the pre-operational stage. If they are showing that they can do some serial ordering, that they have a mature understanding of cause and effect relationship, then they also meet the pre-operational and sensory motor, then they're at the concrete stage, and the same down to formal operations. Remember that anytime you're reading any of this and you say, wow, egocentrism, I have no remembrance of what that is. Google search that word. To know where I got this information, I went to simplypsychology.org to pull the information. It also had some great articles there. There is a Khan Academy video that explains Piaget's theory. So if you haven't had it yet in your program, watch the Khan Academy video. The same for Erickson's theory. There's a great Khan Academy video and the link for where I got the chart. And the same for Kohlberg, great Khan Academy video. It should take you about 30 minutes total if you watch all the videos and read step by step. So now I am in the key assessment document that you will be completing. This came from Blackboard. Right here, this key assessment template document was what I opened. There was an earlier version of this document, and if you downloaded it, you'll notice that the difference is the original version had 2 rows that had a space for the information was over here on the left and a space for you to type over on the right. I modified that and added some more tips, so you'll want to use this version. The first thing I want you to know for this first submission, what I am looking for is that you have taken our case study that we have done since the beginning of class, so behavior modules A all the way through J, and that you are synthesizing that data. We also went ahead and started a functional behavior assessment, an FBA. So I want you to take the data that we have collected so far, and I want you to start filling in the student improvement project. This is a very real world way of working on any kind of student assessment. And in the world of special education, we've already talked about the fact that we do a lot of functional behavior assessments. We look at data and write individualized education program drafts. And every time I've worked on any of those documents, I always start with the template, fill in the information I already have, and then make notes to myself. Here is information I still need to gather. So the expectation for phase one is that you're going to use the behavior modules. You're going to use your book, the articles that we have completed our article critiques, and the resource document that I shared with Kohlberg, Piaget, and Erickson's theories. I want you to fill in what you know so far, and then I want you to make notes in red indicating data that you still need. And then in between phase 1 and 2, we are going to work together to come up with a list of data we still need, and then we're going to work together to gather that data. I'm using some additional behavior module information that I have ready to share. Within the document, you'll notice that I have made some text blue, and I continue to do that. If there is blue text, then those are notes for you as you're working on your document, and after you add information, you should erase the blue notes. So the first thing you're going to do is talk about the student, what you know. So what do you know about the student's temperament, their family structure, if the student had any brain injuries, if there's a genetic abnormality or difference, if they have very specific nutrition requirements, such as food allergies. You're going to list everything that you know, again, going back to behavior modules A through J, and write down what you know about this student. Before you do that, up here on the first row, you're going to talk about what you know about this student. In our behavior modules, the student has a name. You're going to give this student a new name, like maybe I would say this name is Hannah. Name has been changed to protect students' confidentiality. Is, and then you're going to say blank, years old, and you're going to tell me what you know about this student. All right, you may change the name to be whatever you would like the student's name to be. I'm going to make this bold so that's very easy to see that you need to do that part. All right, for each of these sections, you're going to tell what you know about the student's family factors. Let's say I go back through behavior modules A through J and I realize, wow, I really don't know anything about this student's family. Then I'm going to go up right here to the text color. I'm going to make it red and bold and say need to learn about students' family, siblings, parents. What else I want to know? So list some things that you still know, list some things that you know you need to learn. If under cultural factors you feel like I don't know much about this student's culture, I don't know much about where this student lives, again, a detailed note that says what you need to learn about that student. I'm looking for not only what you already know, but what you've identified as factors that you still need to know. You're going to check Piaget's theory and say where you think the student is. The same with Erickson's theory and Kohlberg's theory. Lots of times within the world of education, we are given a model and told to use the data we already have to analyze where our student is and where they would fit on a very specific model. So this is excellent work to make sure that you feel ready to jump into that kind of conversation. You're going to go back to chapters 1 and 2 in your ABA book and quickly tell why you think that ABA and the principles of ABA are appropriate for supporting students. What have you learned about ABA so far? So a quick summary that says this is the reason that I would use ABA to analyze a student's behavior and develop an intervention program. And then you will want to specifically say, now that you've told everything that you know about the child, so here we named her Hannah, what I know about Hannah, now what we want to say is how Hannah is different than her peers. I want you to go into the Kentucky academic standards, specifically the practical living standards, and I've hyperlinked them here for you. And once you go into the practical living standards, based on this student's grade, I want you to scroll down and choose a standard that talks about what students are expected to do. And we know that our student has been demonstrating off-task behaviors. So we want to scroll down and say if our student was in elementary school, middle school, or high school, we'll find that right level, and then look for an academic expectation. So for example, we might say that being on task might fit academic expectation 5.4. Students use a decision-making process to make informed decisions about options. But we might say, nope, I don't think that's right. Maybe it's really 2.32. Student demonstrates strategies for becoming and remaining mentally and emotionally healthy. Others of you might say, I really think that it's a different standard. Choose the one that makes sense to you, and then in your key assessment, you're going to list this standard and say that current state expectations for students in the X grade are 2, and then state the standard, and then tell what the student is doing. And you want to, again, say what she is doing that is not typical of peers. All right, I'm going to leave that example in there for you. So the second part is describing the problem behavior, and we've had lots of experience with this in our behavior modules. So you're just going back through your work in modules A through J. Describe the problem behavior and what out of that problem behavior did we identify as the target behavior, and then what was the operational definition or description that you narrowed down based on the behavior you saw. How often did the behavior typically occur? Do you know how the teacher typically reacted? If we don't know that, make a note. I don't know that. Need to find that information. Do you know how the teacher typically would correct or punish that behavior? If we don't know that, list that you don't know that. The next section, you're going to insert the graph that you have created in our behavior modules and write a 2 to 3 sentence summary of what the data has shared so far. Based on what we know about Samantha, I want you to go ahead and try and recreate what an ABC analysis might look like of that behavior. We've got some specific descriptions, so see if you can craft that ABC of the student's behavior. If you don't need all the lines, you can delete some of them. And then based on the FBA that we've been working on, what have you learned about our students' behavior? And describe how you think that the behavior is serving the student. Think through what is the function of the behavior, and we looked at that. Then you'll start talking about the behavior plan that we looked at. Keep in mind that we talked about using peer-reviewed articles in our textbook, so you'll include that information. Again, sharing what you've learned, writing in red what you're not sure about, and then we will circle back around together and continue to add to our knowledge based on our behavior modules and some additional information. At the end of the summary, you're going to include references, and if you've got questions, don't hesitate to ask in the Questions Asked Here board in Blackboard. Hope you enjoy the summing up of your learning so far.